All right, so back into Capture One. Again, I'm going to hold down the Control key to navigate to my Finder, to the folder in the Finder. This is where I've got my raw files in here. If you simply double click on one of you, you'll notice there's nothing in there here other than a CR2 file in this folder at the bottom. If I double click on this, it takes me into Camera Raw. And inside of Camera Raw, I'm going to do a wild exposure change here. I'm going to just crank this up like this and say, open. It opens up. I'm not going to keep this opened up. I'm simply going to close it. I'm not going to save it. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go back to my folder where that all happened. And you will see right here, there's this extra file now called an XMP file. What this is it's the file that knows I made that change, that I have made that exposure adjustment to that. So now if I double click on that CR2 again, it knows that I did that 3.5 stop adjustment on this. I'm going to cancel out of this. If I throw that file away, the XMP file, and I double click on this again, it's not going to have those adjustments made on it. So it's going to come in as the really dark version again. The reason that is that raw file, well, how many, okay, let me ask you this. What program in here can you use to edit a raw file? Photoshop, anything else? Bridge, anything else? Camera Raw, anything else? Oh, come on, use your imagination. Lightroom will do it, Capture One will do it, Bibble will do it. Is that all true? See, now, no, you guys are so gun shy of me. No, you're all wrong. All of that's wrong. You cannot edit a raw file legally. You can't even do it illegally. What happens is, well, I'll explain this part. You can process a raw file till the cows come home, but you cannot go in and change. You cannot go in and alter a raw file. There's nothing that you can use, nothing that you can buy that will edit a raw file. If you try to, there's programs that will actually let you get into the data, but if you change the data, the file self-destructs. And the reason this is that because when Adobe was developing, and Adobe is who developed what everybody uses as raw file today, is when they first developed it, law enforcement came to them and said, we're not going to touch this because anybody can go in there. I can take Lakeisha's head and put it on Maddie's body, and Maddie committed the murder, but Lakeisha's going to go to jail for it, right? And they said, so we're not going to touch that. And the people at Adobe said, well, okay, we'll make you a deal. If we make it impossible to alter that file, will you embrace it? And they said, yes, if you make it impossible to alter the file, we will embrace it. So that's why when you edit files now, they write what they call sidecar files. These sidecar files describe how you want the file processed, how you want it to look, all those kind of issues, because you can't go in and do anything to the raw file itself. So you've got this external file that says, this is the changes that I want to make. But the file itself, if you could go in there and get to it, it would self-destruct. Does that make sense, everyone? So everybody has their versions of that, and that's what's going on in that extra folder. So if you look in this extra folder down here that says Capture One, it's this thing right here. If you take a look at this, in the cache part that sits up in the top, you'll see that things called proxies and thumbnails. These proxies right here, these are the sidecar files that are for your shoot. If you look at the thumbnails, these are the previews for your shoot. This whole system is why Capture One is so fast and so responsive, but that's what's going on in here. And so again, this becomes important. You don't want to throw this guy away because any changes that you have made to this folder in here are saved into these sidecar files. But unlike the way Lightroom and Photoshop manage this, they don't start stacking the XMPs next to this because it just gets to be too much. This is a system that keeps it cleaner and more organized, but that's what's going on in there. Okay, back into Capture One really quickly. So are there questions about any of this part? All right, back in the library session part, we need to deal with these last couple of things that are down here, and it's session albums. I want everybody to look at this part really quickly. So is there anybody in this room that's ever built playlists like in iTunes or anything like that? You know, you sort of know how that whole part goes. So that's basically what session albums are about. These things are, what they do is they're ways to build subset collections that you can actually use to sort through your files. So if you take a look through ours right now, you'll actually see that if you look down here on the bottom, some of these things have no stars at all. Some of these things have 3 stars. Some have 4 stars, and it's got a green color. We're going to talk about tagging here in just a second. But there's different versions of these guys in here, and you can use this session albums here to help sort through your imagery, to help make sense in all of this. So what I want to do is I want to look at session albums really quickly. So I want you to come over to right next to session albums. I want you to click on the plus, and you'll get a drop-down menu, and you'll see you have 2 options here. You can actually do a regular album, or you can do a smart album. I'm going to actually ask you to pick a regular album first, and I want you to call this Pictures I Hate. And simply say OK to that. Don't do any of the included select and part. And you will see that right down in here, you've actually now got this file, this folder now that's actually called Pictures I Hate. And in doing that, nothing is actually populated. If you click on Pictures I Hate, you'll see that you don't have any thumbnails anymore because we haven't put anything into Pictures I Hate. If you clicked on that, you now need to go back up to your capture folder in order to be able to see your thumbnails. And I'm going to look through this and say the only picture in here that I really hate are the very first one. So I want you to click on the very top one, the one that's really dark, and actually drag that thumbnail over to Pictures I Hate and let go. Now you'll notice it doesn't leave your capture folder. It's still sitting right in here. However, if you now come over and click on Pictures I Hate, the only one that's in there is that one that we actually just put in there. So regular albums are a manual drag and drop. So for instance, if you're looking at this guy right now and you don't want him in here, you can simply delete it. So again, it's sitting up here, it's selected. You can see the little lines, white lines around it. Hit the delete key. We just got rid of the reference. We did not get rid of the file. If you go back up to your capture folder, it's still sitting right here. So what these are here, they are simply ways to look at your shoot. You're not putting folders in there. You're not moving shit over into there. That's not what it is. It's simply making references to that part. Does that make sense to everyone? Are we good on that part? All right, hang on one second. I'm going to hold off on smart albums for just 1 second, and we are going to look at a couple of other things here first, and then we'll talk about smart albums. So I want everybody to come over here and actually take a look, and you can see, I'm going to say just click on the very top frame. And you'll notice that it has no star ratings on it at all. Star ratings are very simple here. You don't use command shortcuts. You simply use the keys themselves. So I want everybody to hit the 3 key. And you'll notice that it put in 3 stars for you. Hit the 5 key. It actually changes it to 5 stars. Hit the 0 key actually knocks all of your stars out. So you don't have any stars going in here. So this would be a way that most people would rate. So as you're going through this, what most people will do is they'll have their finger on the 1 key, and then again, we've talked about this, but I want to reiterate this part right here. When you use the keys the arrow keys to sort through here, you want to make sure you are only using the right and left arrow key. You do not want to be using the up and down arrow key. Now, I've only got a single of thumbnails here, right? So if I use my down arrow key, it goes to the next one the way you would expect it to do. And if I go down to the next one, it works. That's all working the way we would expect it to work. But if I change this to actually looking at multiple files at thumbnails right here, so I've changed this not to do just the single list of them here, but the multiple ones here, and then I drag out my thumbnail part here so that I get 2 rows. So now with 2 rows, I'm going to go up here and select my top one again, but using the down arrow key now, I skip frame number 2. It keeps the row, it keeps the column part of this intact. So you never want to use up and down arrow keys. If you use only right to left arrow keys, it will always step you through all of your files. You'll never mistakenly miss one. But if you use the up and down arrow keys and you've got multiple columns of this visible, it will skip everything in between. If I continue to kick this out till I get 3 columns like this, now when I use my down arrow key, I'm looking at every 4th frame. And if you don't know that's what's going on, you are going to miss 2/3 of your work. So again, right and left only. Now again, because I use this single column setting, my right and left and arrow key, up and down, whatever, are going to be exactly the same, but it's just a bad habit to get into, so I'm just going to strongly suggest you guys don't get into that habit. So at any rate, with the first one selected like this, I'm going to go ahead and hit it as a 4-star, but now there's people who like to add color as well. You can actually do color tagging as well. The simplest way to color tag is to come over here to the little to the little square that's sitting right next to this and click, and you will actually get a drop-down menu, and you can actually assign colors to this. So typically in the art directors that I work with, what they usually do is they will use the stoplight metaphor. They will use red to flag something that they absolutely do not want to use. They will use yellow to be something that they are on the fence about. That, well, I still may use it, I still may not use it. And green usually indicates it's something that they definitely want to keep. It's something that they want to hang on to and continue with, right? So, for instance, you could have let them go through and say, I want you to do all of your 5-star rating first, and then you can go through and add color ratings to actually refine that selection process even further. Does that make sense, everyone? So before we add colors to this anymore, what I want to do is look at the sorting process of this. And the easiest one to get to, and the one that, again, most of you guys will go to first, is up here at the top. And it's the double-headed arrow right here. If you click on this double-headed arrow and come down and say, I want to sort this by rating, it will actually give you your rating. So I need you guys to do this. It doesn't help just to watch. This is all about muscle memory. So come up and click on that, and you will see that you have now got 5-star ratings at the top. As you start to scroll down, these are all 5 stars, still 5 stars, still 5 stars. And then I go down to my 4-star rating, down to all the 4 stars, down to the 3 stars, the 2 stars, and then the 0 stars down at the bottom. If you want to flip the order that this is done in, click on that drop-down double-headed arrow, the up and down arrow again, and simply say, I want to reverse this. And then you will have your 0 stars at the very top, and at the very bottom is where all your 5-star ratings will actually be. I'm going to go back and do it the other way because I prefer to have the higher numbers up at the very top. And so this, again, would be a way to go through and edit these things down. Now, I told you guys this before. You're working on a larger screen, and if you can actually get your screen to show you 6 thumbnails on the side, you can maximize the amount of editing space. I can't do that on mine. So in my case, it's only going to be 3. I can probably get 4 in here. I can see 4 in here, and I'll show you why this part makes a difference. So can you use this column width part so that you guys can see 6 thumbnails on the side? Do you see 6? Can you get 6? Ellie, in your case, you can only get 5? Okay. And Ellie, in your case, you're on a laptop as well, so 4 is probably a better number for you. This is the reason why you want to actually pick that. If you click on the very top one, hold down your Shift key and go to the bottom of your screen and click, you get a 4 up like this. If you were to actually get 5, you would be wasting viewing space. You would end up with 3 columns, but the very bottom one would be blank because you had only picked 5 frames. It's a waste of space. So what you're trying to do is maximize the number here that you can then go in and say, okay, these are my 5-star picks right here. I want to actually, this is the one that I love the most, or this one right down here is the one that I love the most. It's a way to then start to look at your top picks as a group so that you can continue to edit. Does this make sense? Because what you don't want to do is this. If you want to get rid of your multiple selections here, you'll see if you click on a different thumbnail, it only highlights a different thumbnail. You don't get rid of the whole 4 selected or the whole 6. To get rid of that, you need to look at my screen right here. You need to hover your cursor next to the thumbnail but not on it. And if you click right next to it, it unselects everybody. This is what you don't want to do. If you click on the very top one, scroll all the way down to the bottom, hold down the Shift key and click on the bottom. Who wants to edit that? And there's 3 of them you can't even see. Does this make sense? So again, if I go back to my 4 up like this, so everybody watch this. This is how I edit. And this is, again, if you can do this for an art director or for a photographer to get them through this, it just will make such a difference. So watch what I'm doing right here. I'm going to click this top one, hold down my Shift key, and click the 4 up now. He can decide or she can decide which of these they like and mark it some way. So let's say that, oh, I really love this number 1 up here, this guy right here. So I can say, okay, well, I'm going to click on that guy, and I'm going to mark it with purple because you strike me as a purple person. Then I come over here to my scroll bar over here, and I click just 1 click down. This takes me down almost to the next 4 set. And now I can click on this one and look at the next 4. So I'm looking at it in blocks of 4 or whatever I can legitimately see on my screen. Big screens, most people will do a 6 up. Smaller screens like this, they'll do a 4 up. And it's just how people edit. Is this making sense to you guys? So then I can say, oh, I really love this one right here. It's the one down here on the bottom. So I'm going to change it from red and I'm going to make it purple. Does that sort of make sense what's going on? And then finally, you can come all the way back here to the top, click on the double-headed arrow again, and say instead of doing rating, you want to look at color tagging. And click on color tag. And you will see sitting up here at the very top are your 2 purple ones. You can look at them together now. Again, simply holding down the Shift key to select them both. These are my 2 top picks because they were tagged in purple. Is this all making sense, the navigation part? Okay, are there any questions about this part? All right, there's a couple other things we need to look at really quickly, guys. We're getting through this. I need everybody to come up to the edit menu here really fast, and I want you to, you'll notice here, well, actually don't come to the edit menu, come up to the adjustment menu first. And you'll see in the adjustment menu, if you come down to color tag, that there is only 3 keyboard shortcuts for color tagging. The reason that there's only 3 here is that this goes back to early versions like version 3 of Capture One. There were only 3 colors in the beginning, and they set them up exactly the way we were just talking about, that red was set up as a negative, that yellow was sort of like a maybe, and that green was a positive. That's what they're set up here. However, really good digital techs don't use this system at all. What a really good digital tech will do is they will assign a keyboard change for all of these guys so that you can really quickly use keyboard shortcuts to assign color. So we can do that. You can build your own keyboard shortcuts for this. To do that, come up to the Edit menu and come down to Edit Keyboard Shortcuts. And a window will open up, and you will actually see up here under the window right here, you have got all of your menu commands are sitting right here. So you'll see Capture One is this menu right here, File is this menu right here, Edit is this menu right here, and so on, all the way across this. So, and they drop down, and you can edit any of these things. So if you want to modify your keyboard set here, you actually need to click on this plus first, because you cannot change the defaults, but you can do a custom keyboard setting. So click on this plus, and I'm going to call it Verser's Keyboards. You can call it your name as well. Please do this with me. And say OK. And you'll now see right here that it says Verser's Keyboard Setting. And then the one that we want to change, it's here under Adjustments. So come down to the to the menu for Adjustments. You'll click and you'll get a drop open right here, and then come down to Color Tag. You can click and get a drop open right here, and then you can actually add keyboard shortcuts to here. So I'm going to add a keyboard shortcut for None, and what None means is that if there is a color tag on here, it will remove it. And I'm going to use Shift 0. what I like to do, and the reason I like to do this is that I like to mirror my color ratings, which are 0 through 5. I like to use my to mirror the star ratings, which are 0 through 5, using color ratings, which are simply shift 0 through shift. I think it's going to go up to 7, regardless. So I'm going to come down to the red one right now. Again, if you simply click on it and hold down shift and say shift 1, click down to orange, shift 2, click down to yellow, shift 3, click down to green, shift 4, click down to blue, shift 5, pink is shift 6, and purple is shift 7. You've now got a series of keyboard shortcuts that will actually do that. However, let's say that you decide that purple, you made a mistake and you don't want to actually do that. It doesn't need to be shift 7. With it still active and clicked on it, you hit the delete key. In older versions of Capture One, and I think it's actually going to be in this one as well, yeah, you need to drag this part to the side. In older versions of Capture One, if you were to hit the delete key right here, it would actually assign purple to the delete key, which would mean anytime you try to delete a file, you really just assign the color purple to it. It looks like they've fixed that as a bug right now. So instead, what you would really want to do is you want to click on that circle that's got the X on it. That's how you want to get rid of something. And then when you jump back out to another thing, you'll see that there is no keyboard shortcut for this. So I'm old school. I would argue to use the circle with the X as opposed to the delete key, but it looks like they've actually fixed that part so that you can't assign the delete key to one of these. So I'm going to put Shift 7 back in here, and then simply hit close. Then come up to your adjustment menu and come down to color tag, and you'll see that all of those color tags that you just put in there are sitting here. And that is true of every single menu item that exists in Capture One. You can actually reset these. Now, when you actually do this, again, all of this is saved in your custom folder for your settings in Capture One. So again, if I go back out to my library again, and I go to Application Support, and I go to Capture One, and I look inside of here, this will actually be in, I think it's in, I don't know where they put, oh, it's keyboard shortcuts. It's actually going to be sitting right in here. In keyboard shortcuts, you'll actually see that the Verser shortcut list that I actually put right in here is sitting right here. And that's why, Maddie, when I was talking to you earlier about this, that's why you don't just want to copy your workspace. You want to copy this entire folder because it takes everything that you set up. And your setup can evolve over time. And as long as you just keep replacing this thing with it, it will constantly stay updated, and you can move it to any computer that you want. Are there questions about this? Are we good on this? All right, back into Capture One really quickly. I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm going to say simply do an order by name again to go back to sort of ignore all of this. However, still working in the library folder part over here, you will notice if you look over here underneath your sessions, underneath albums, underneath favorites, underneath your system, you will have a drop down that says filters. And in this filter right down here, you will also notice if you look down here underneath your screen, you will have a series of star ratings. If you need to collapse the rating part. If it's been collapsed, you need to open it up. You will see you have none. You've got 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars, 4 star, 5 stars, and they are populated by numbers right here. If you come over to this side over here, for instance, and I'm going to click on the 4 number that's right next to my 5-star rating, you may have 3 or 4 in there. Your number may be slightly different than mine because we've changed a couple of these guys. But if you simply click on a radio button right next to it, it will show you only your 5 stars. That's the only thing that we're able to see over here. Does that make sense? And if you click on the 2-star rating, you'll see that. You not only have the number of stars, but you've got a count in here of the number of images that sits in there. So for instance, if I come back up to my none, and I can click, there's 6 images that have no star ratings at all. I've got 1 image that's got a 1 star, 1 that has a 3 star, 2 that have a 4 star, and 5 that actually have a 4-star rating. 4 images that have a 5-star rating. Does this make sense to everyone? Are we good about this part? I want you to go down and look at color tagging right now. In color tagging, if you click on 6 for none, it'll show you all the images that have no color tagging at all. I personally have 2 of them that has a red color tag. I've also got 2 that has a purple tag because I tagged those guys earlier. I've got 4 that has a green tag. Does this make sense what's going on? You can do compound ones of these. So let's say, for instance, you want to look at all of your 5-star images that have a green tag on them. If you come up here, so I've selected my green. I've actually got it's a radio button is selected. If I come up and just click on the 5-star rating, it gets rid of the green rating right here. It won't keep both of them. In order to keep both of them, you hold down the Option key and click the second one. And you can click multiple ones. You can do, oh, I also want to see the red as well. So what I'm looking at right now is I'm saying I want to see all the 5-star images that have either a red or a green rating tag on them. If you, does that sort of make sense what's going on in this? Are we good about this part? So you can do multiple ones. I'm going to get rid of that 2-star rating again by simply clicking on it. But right now you will see, and I need everybody to do this, I want you to do your 5-star rating along with green. And you can see in my case, I've got 2 images that satisfy both of that criteria. So do you guys have that? Is that working? So that's all you're able to see, right? You can build a smart album that will deal just with that. So come up to the very top under here for filters and click on this little 3 dots that are up here. And sorry, it wasn't that one. Let me cancel out of this. Not the 3 stars at the very top, but the little 3 stars next to the search dialog box. Click on that little 3-star, and you will get a flyout menu or a screen that actually opens up, and it says, okay, this is advanced search criteria, and it's building this for you. And you can see in the filters that you've got going here, it has picked a 5-star rating, and you can see that the green has actually been circled right here. Does that make sense, everyone? But you'll notice down here that you can also say, you would like to create a smart album of this. So I want you to click on Create Smart Album. This album, a name will come up, and you can name it. And I'm going to call mine Green 5-star rating. And say Save. And I have now got a Session album right here that is green 5-star rating. And if you click on it, you will get all of your images that are green tagged and have a 5-star rating. And what this means by Smart Album is you do not drag and drop anything into this. Like we had with the Pictures I Hate, this is not what happens with Smart Albums. What Smart Albums are is they watch the criteria in your image, in your sorting, and they will populate automatically. So for instance, if we go back to our capture folder, you'll see that I only had 3 of those images in there. If you go back to your capture folder, you'll still see only these 2 images, and that's because your filters are still on. To get rid of your filters, you click on the little X that's got the circle around it in the search dialog box. It will uncheck all of your filters so that none of them are actually checked, and you will see all of your images right now. Now, if we actually go down and we make another 5-star image, so I'm going to actually click on my very top one. I'm going to hit the 5 key to make it a 5-star rating. I'm going to click on this drop-down box and actually tag it with a green, which would have been Command 4 if you knew what you were really doing. Again, green is, Shift 4. And now, just by changing that, if you come back over and look at your green 5-star rating Smart Album, that image is sitting in there because it met that criteria. Does that make sense? Finally, in Session albums, you can build these. So that's one way to build it. You can build it a completely different way. To build it another way, we're simply going to, again, come up to the plus right next to Session albums, click on this drop-down menu and say we want to add a Smart Album. And you can build these things from scratch. So you will see when you get this album up that in the drop down, you've got a series of presets. These are just easy ways to get to star ratings. So for instance, I could say on this, I want 3 stars or higher. So, and you'll see it builds that attribute in here. You can change these attributes. So for instance, I can click on this drop-down menu and I can say, okay, right now this is saying 3 stars or greater. But if I only want 3 stars, it's going to say, I want to say equals 3 stars. If you realize that you really didn't want 3, but you wanted 4, you can edit this as well. So all of this you can actually edit. But there's a whole series of filters that you can add to this. So if you click on the little plus icon that's underneath this, you will get a drop-down menu that lets you build just about anything you want. So again, I'm going to click on my drop-down menu here under any, and I'm going to say date that is on, and it knows right now that I shot this. Is this today? Is today the 18th? It's the 19th right here. So you can click and change this to the date I shot this on was on the 8th. So I'm going to click on get my little flyout menu here, and I'm going to click on the 8th right here, and it should pick up all of these images. And then you can click on another criteria right down here, and you can actually continue to build these on and on and on. Does this sort of make sense what's going on? Okay, so in this case, I'm not going to do that add on there, the third one on here. I'm just going to get rid of this. And so I'm going to say OK to this, and it's going to say, what do you want to call it? And I'm going to call this, what did I say, 4 stars on 10 underscore, I take that back, on 2019 underscore. Do not use forward and backslashes in this. Those are illegal characters. 10 underscore 08 and save that. And now when I click on this, it's not showing me any images because apparently I didn't shoot any of those images on that date. So, oh, we did change it to a 7, but I thought it would tag otherwise. So this will help me, though, get to the whole last part of what I want to try to talk about right here. Do me a favor, come down to your filters really quickly. And you will see, again, back in our filter area down here, the standard set of filters that you get are ratings, followed by color tagging. But then if you go down here, you also have got date. So if you click on a drop down for date, again, I don't have anything showing. So let me go back up again. I'm going to get rid of, I'm not going to stay on my 5-star rating because it's not showing me any images. I'm going to go back to my capture folder. And then you will see in this drop down for date that it was done on the 8th. So I said something wrong in that. I don't know what I set up. We'll go and look at it in a second. But you'll see that, again, down here, it's actually populating and it's giving me date. And you can see I've got 14 images that were shot on this. But this would be a way for you, if you've shot over 2 days, to separate out images that you shot on day 1 from the images you shot on day 2. There are no keywords in here. None of them have been processed. If you shoot with multiple cameras, so Juliana, for you, when you shoot with multiple cameras, do you actually sort your stuff depending on, do you have multiple cameras that you shoot your weddings with? Do you shoot with other photographers at the same time? Do you, like, would 2 photographers actually shoot for a wedding? Yeah. Yes. Do you ever have problems with trying to integrate those into a similar time frame? Exactly. You have to sync your cameras to do that, right? So this would allow you to actually go in and separate all the work that was done from one camera from all the work that was done from another, so that you could then go in and modify only one to have it re-time stamped if you had to fix it after the fact. So again, you can sort by camera serial number. Down here, you can go by aperture, how much of this stuff. So for instance, you'll see I've got 7 images in here that were shot at f16, and I've got 7 that were shot at f8. Well, let's look at the ones that were shot at f8. So I've simply clicked on that f8 filter, and you'll see it's none of the close-up still life stuff. It was all the full-length body stuff. If you click on the 7 that's right next to this f16 one, it's all the still life stuff that I shot because I need greater depth of field when I shoot still life. Is this making sense? So the sorting part of this is critical, but if you come down here, you'll see that I've got 6 images that were shot at an ISO of 100, that I've got 4 that were done at a 1600. If you are actually geotagging, it'll also come up here. But let's say that you want other things in here. You want to actually be able to sort by other things, that this is not enough for you. It's giving you focal length. It's giving you a number of things here. Watch this. I need everybody to do this with me, please. Come up to your filter stack right here, and I want you to click again on the little 3 dots that are up there, and then I want you to come down to Show and Hide Filters. And when you do that, a dialog box will open up, and you can actually show and hide all of these filters right here. So for instance, if you wanted to come up with camera model, which we do not have right now, I'm going to click on camera model just to add that to the list. And you'll see the minute I do that, it gives me a camera model with a tag of an EOS 5D Mark III, and it's telling me that all 14 of my images were done from that. If you continue to go down here, if you were doing stuff, again, Juliana, I think this would actually play into a lot of what you guys do if you're doing, for instance, flash or non-flash. All of that gets flagged into. So if you wanted to only see the available light stuff, not the stuff that had a fill flash in it, you can go in and separate the flash stuff from the fill flash. I mean, it's exhaustive what this thing will actually do. But just realize that you can modify all of this, and then once you're happy with what it's got, simply close this up, and now camera model is a part of what you can sort with. Are we good on this part?
So if you were integrating 2 batches of photos from 2 different cameras that were, like both people were shooting at the same time, I don't see time in here as like a way
to modify the time?
No, just so that you wouldn't have like one camera's batch of photos and then another camera's batch of photos.
If you wanted to integrate them, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, again, would they be shooting at the same time?
Yeah.
So if they're shooting at the same time, you simply do a sort by date. Okay. So, because the date is a timestamp down to, it's at least a single second. It actually might be down to a microsecond. So that would be the easiest way to do it. But then other things, Liz, is that you could go in and you could use your color ratings to split them apart and then not sort by color rating to bring them all back together. But it's a quick way to get back and forth. I mean, there's a gazillion ways of doing all of this. All right, are there any questions about this part? Are we good on this? Okay, so we've gone through that part, we've created smart albums, we've done all that, we've built a regular album, we've sorted by dates. I'm just trying to make sure that, guys, we're doing well, we're getting into the heart of all of this. I've got that. Oh, okay, next thing down here. So I need everybody to go about to their select folder again. If you've got anything showing down here in your filters, again, and I do have ones, I'm only showing my F16 versions of these. Again, to remove all of your filters, it's this little circle that's in the search, right next to the search guy. Click on that. It gets rid of any filtering that we've actually done on this. So now my capture folder is showing me everything here. So you can move things around in here. So for instance, I want you to select your very top file here for me really quickly, and I want you to hit the delete key. And what will end up happening is it throws that file away. However, if you come down to your trash folder that's sitting here in Sessions and you click on this, you'll see that it's sitting right in there. So one of the things that you need to know about throwing files away in Capture One is that it is a 2-step process. It's a safety, and what I mean by safety is this file has been moved to the trash folder of the session, but this is not the trash folder of your system. So for instance, if you hover over the trash folder, hold down your, whatever you use to right-click your mouse, I'm holding down the control key, click and say, I want to show this in the Finder. It will take you out there and you will see this is the trash folder that is sitting in your session. This is not the trash folder of your system. This file has not been thrown away. This file is sitting right there, and if you copy this session and give it to somebody else, you will be copying this file along with it. The only way to permanently get rid of this guy is to come into this folder, click on it, and throw it away in the permanent trash of your system and empty it and get rid of it. Does that make sense? So how bad could that possibly, that whole double trash setup, how could that possibly ever impact someone? Let me tell you. Shooting for Bonton, we have a set going, and my assistants decide, it's been a long day of shooting, and they decide they are going to go grab a bunch of beers, come back, and they're going to do fake porno shit on our set, just for laughs. And it wasn't nothing hardcore, nothing even really naked, but just this overt highly embarrassing, really drunk, 2 or 3 people doing this whole scenario, right? And they say, well, this is no big deal. We'll just throw all that shit away before we start shooting the next day. And they did. And they threw it all in this trash. And the first thing, we weren't into the shooting the next day 10 minutes. And the art director goes, I don't want that file, I don't want that file. And somebody threw away the wrong file. And they said, oh, well, I can get it back. Oh, no, I want that file back. Well, I can get it back. And they opened up the trash. And guess what's sitting in the trash? So we had the best time. We actually put that shit up on a big screen because we were watching them do their fake porno all drunk on our set from the night before. And it was just humiliation beyond all possible belief. So I'm telling you right now, so that you never forget this, that if you have embarrassing moments that you clearly want to get rid of, it is a 2-step process. We good on this part? Yeah, I know. All right, but anyway, back in Capture One, so go back into Capture One. If for some reason that you realize that you've made a mistake, you can actually undo this part. You don't use, Command-Z works some in Capture One, but not a lot. Simply go to your trash folder, click on the thumbnail, and drag it back into your Capture folder and let go. Now, in older versions of Capture One, you would always get a warning that would come up and say, you are moving this folder. You're moving this file. You're moving this file. In this case, you're not getting it anymore. And people were pretty annoyed with that anyway. But you'll see it's sitting back in your Capture folder right now. Does that make sense to everyone? It's right here. So again, I'm going to throw this guy away. I'm going to throw the next one away as well. Oh my God, I need them both back. I'm going to go to my trash folder. They're both sitting right here. Click on the first one, hold down the Shift key, click on the second one, drag them back to your Capture folder, and they are no longer in the trash. They are back in your Capture folder. Make sense? The next one down, and this next one down actually does matter quite a bit to us, and it is the Selects folder. There are some people in the Selects folder that, what you'll notice is this. If you click on the 5-star folder right here, and we have 5 stars right here, I'm going to uncheck. I'm going to make this top 5-star right here no longer 5 stars. So I'm going to select on it to make it active, and I'm going to hit a 4, which makes it a 4-star. And you'll see it's no longer in my 5-star smart folder, which makes sense. My smart album. It is still in my Capture folder here. So these only make references to stuff. If you truly want to separate something out, if you want to move it out of your Capture folder into a place that is not in your trash that somebody can actually look at, that's what the Selects folder is all about. So again, I'm going to come up to my top one right here just because it's the one that's so different, and I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag it into my Selects folder and let go. Now you'll see it's no longer in my Capture folder, but it is the lone one that sits in my Selects folder. If you again hold down the Control key and click on Selects folder and say show this to me in the Finder, it's sitting right here. And so there are people, I don't know how you guys edit, but there are certain people that throw every single thing away and only keep one file, the latest, greatest, most incredible one. Those are the people that use the Selects folder. Most of the people that I work with do not do that. Are we good on this, guys? Are there questions about this? Is this making sense? Okay. I'm going to undo that part. I'm going to go back into my Selects folder, and I'm going to, again, simply drag this folder out and put it into my Capture folder again, and it's still sitting right up there. Everything is good to go. Okay. So the other thing that you need to know about this, and this is an important one for us, and it's this right here. You will see that right now, and you guys should have this part going on as well. You remember I built this 4-star that was shot on this date folder, and this didn't look right to me? If you double click on this guy, it's not going to let me edit this guy. It's not going to let me change it. So I'm going to rebuild this. But first I need to get rid of the one that's bad. So I'm going to get rid of it again. It's a smart album that's not functioning right because I didn't do something right in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the minus sign here, and it goes away. Then I'm going to click to build a new one. And again, I'm going to do a smart album. And when the dialog box opens up, right now, and this would be a good time. Right now, Capture One is not working the way I think it should be working because I'm trying to build a smart album, and it's not letting me build a smart album, and it may be because I don't have a capture folder going. Let me try it now. Yep, that's what was going on. But while we're here, just to know, I need everybody to go out to their Finder again. When Capture One starts acting wonky on you, you need to come out to the Finder. You need to, again, go to your library. Could you please do this with me? Click on the Go menu. You'll get a drop down. You won't see Library. Hold down your Shift key to get to Library. When you get to the library, it'll actually be in here. I'm going to go down to, this is not application support now. This is preferences. And you go to preferences and you'll bring this whole part open. This is true and again, if Capture One, and it'll happen, and you'll have to reset the preferences. So to do that, you start to scroll down, and what we are looking for here is, they don't call it Capture One, they're going to call it phase, and usually you'll have this COM before it. You'll have a COM.phase1. Sometimes the COM doesn't exist. You've got to look through both of them. So I'm simply scrolling down here, trying to get past all the COM Apple ones, and now I'm finally getting down to where it might be, because it's done, or at least for me with my screen sorted the way I sort mine. Again, I'm using the tree version of this. It's simply easier to get to. And phase one is this set right here. So you can see it is a com.phase1. And in this case, you'll see I've got a lot of them. I've got stuff that's from phase, that's actually Capture One 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I've only got a single one right here, but what you'll also notice happens is this. If you have Capture One open right now, Capture One, sometimes if you watch this screen long enough, you'll see a preference show up here and then disappear, and then another one show up and disappear. And what's happening is that because Capture One is actually open right now, it is writing this preference file the whole time. If you do not quit Capture One and you throw away these preference files in order to reset Capture One, it will continue that writing process, and what will happen is when you go back into Capture One, it will really quickly write a perverted or a corrupted preference file for you, and you will not have fixed your problem. So if you're having a problem with Capture One, you have to quit Capture One first, then go in, and you'll see, did you guys just see that screen just changed? It is because I quit Capture One. Now Capture One is no longer writing a file. Now I would go in there, and anything, and I mean anything in here that has got phase one attached to it, you want to throw it out. So in all these 8s and 9s, all of mine, if I was having problems and I wanted to reset this, I would throw them all out. However, the downside to that is it also throws away your registration. So you have got to re-register with Capture One, which is not a problem if you've bought it or if you're doing the demo or any of that, but you have got to be online in order to do that. And this is the thing that I was warning you guys about, is let's say you're out in the field, you're in the middle of nowhere, Capture One is acting wonky on you, and you say, well, I'll just reset the preferences. That's great, but then you have to be able to make a connection, online connection to Capture One, to phase one servers in order to certify the program to use it again. Yeah. Are there questions about that? All right, so back into Capture One. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, guys. We're getting through this. Stay with me. Again, all I can say to you, please, is realize how important this thing is and what a difference this thing can make in your life. And so, at any rate, alrighty. If you are going to share a session with somebody, really quickly, click on your capture folder, hold down the Control key, click and drop down and say, I want to go out and show this to me in the Finder. Do not simply give them this capture folder. They will lose everything else that you have put together. If you want to give it to them, you give them the total parent folder. You give them specifically this preference file along with the capture folders and any output selects or trash that you've actually done. It's the entire thing. If you simply give them the capture folder, it will orphan everything. However, what I did want to show you is this. So if you are back in your Capture One session right here, you'll see in here, let's go ahead and build that one smart album that I was missing right here. So again, with my Capture folder selected, I'm going to click on the plus next to my session albums. I'm going to say I want a smart album on this. And the first one, I am going to do a preset for 4 stars. So I'm just setting preset for 4 stars, and then I'm going to click on this plus again, and I'm going to do any file. I'm going to come down to do date. I'm actually going to just do the year, because that way I'll know I'll be able to get this correctly, the year, and it puts in 2019. So I know that should satisfy all my all the stuff that I shot with this, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that, and I'm going to call it 4 star. And 2019, 4 star 2019, and I'm going to go ahead and say save that guy. And then again, if I come down here and I click on 4 star 2019, you'll see this is all files that I shot that all have 4 stars or greater. Remember, we had that 4 star or greater part, so those are all going on here. However, what I want you guys to do now is I want you to go back to the folder, to the session that we built today. So again, click on your drop-down menu, and I'm going to go back to the one that we built today, which is the 1019, and say OK to that. And what you'll notice here is you have got your session favorites are back, the subfolders, the 1 through 5 are back, but none of those albums are here. All of this stuff is remembered on a per session basis. Does that make sense, everyone? And where that information is kept is in this preference folder this preference file right here. This preference file remembers everything. It remembers what workspace you were in. It remembers whether you added favorites or not. It remembers all your session albums. It remembers all of that. When you shift from one of these to another, you go back to a unique original set. So if you wanted those same albums that you wanted here, if you wanted the 4 star version of this that was only shot in 2019, you have to build it again here in this session. That's another reason that using session favorites is so important, is that you don't have to build it for every one of your shots. In the old days where we had to build 15 sessions for 15 shots, all of this had to be built 15 times as well. Are we good on this? Are there questions about this? All right. This will be a good time to look at this, and this is where we'll sort of end things right now. I'm going to go back to the original session that we actually had. So I take that back. Let's do this. I'm not going to go back to the original session. I'm actually going to add a catalog to this. So I want everybody to come over here really quickly to show you. Again, I strongly discourage you from using catalogs unless you are only shooting for one person, be it yourself or one person who wants all of their work to be together forever, much like it is in Lightroom. But if you click on this the plus that's on the side right here, and you'll get a drop-down menu here, I want you to come down to New Catalog. And we're going to name this new catalog the same way we would work it. However, instead of giving it a session name, I'm going to give it a catalog name. So I would just call this Versers Catalog. Because again, there's nothing about this is going to be date specific. There would be no reason it would defeat your purpose to do a catalog for, say, 2019 and a different catalog for 2020 and a different one. The thing that you're trying to leverage in this is that all of your files are in one place so that you can search all of them. So think about the way it works like this. Let's say, for instance, you were a shooter and all you did was nature pictures. But in your nature pictures, you did flowers and you did trees and you did a whole bunch of different stuff like that. And let's say, for instance, that every day that you went out to shoot flowers, that's all you were going to shoot that day. So you built a session every single day that was for flowers. So it would have been the session that we built today, and instead of the C1 Pro demo, it would be flowers. And then tomorrow you were to do another session and it also had flowers. And then in 2 weeks from now you did another session, it would also have flowers on it. And you did this for 15 years. And then there came the day where you decided, I want to see all my flower pictures. You would have to go through every single session one at a time to look at all your flower pictures. Whereas instead, if you had all of those just thrown into one single catalog, you could do a keyword search for flowers, And every one of them from all the years would all show up and you wouldn't have to deal with it. Does that sort of make sense? So at any rate, that would be the difference here. But you wouldn't want to have a different catalog for every year because then you would have to separately search every year's catalog. So we're just going to do one general one right here. I am going to put it into my share folder again. I'm going to, again, not open this in a new window. I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that. And you'll see that things change now when you actually do this. And in the change that we've got going right now, you'll notice looking over here on the side, the language has actually changed. I don't have any filters in here. I no longer have a capture folder here. I no longer have selects, trash. I don't have any of that kind of, I don't have output here. None of that part exists. All I've actually got here is the beginning of this. And the beginning is going to say, do you want to import images? And I'm going to say yes to this. So I'm going to click on here to actually do an import. It's going to bring open a dialog box, and in this dialog box is how you bring stuff in. So this is not too dissimilar from the way it works in Lightroom. Anybody in this room never worked in Lightroom? You guys all have had some experience in Lightroom. So this is going to be very similar to that. I actually think it's a little bit better, but we'll go through it anyway. So in the beginning part of this, what we're going to actually say in this beginning is that we're going to start at the very top. Importing from. Where do we import from? If you click on this drop-down menu and you come down to Choose Folder, you will be able to navigate to that other folder I asked you to copy. The other one I asked you to copy was called a card import. What the hell did I call it? What was it called? Oh, Compact Flash, right? Compact Flash Card Imitation. That's the one I want you to pick. And so if you actually pick that guy, can everybody find that? That was the other folder I actually asked you to download. Go ahead and click Open to that, and it will populate your image, and you'll see here that it's got a whole lot of, it's image 01, 02, whatever. In my case, I've got 26. Click on this drop-down menu right here and come down to Choose Folder. Yours says what?
It's like stop on choose.
Yeah, there's no other option.
Navigate to somewhere else. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you stick your
I just clicked on it again and it worked. Clicked randomly 10 times.
Click over next to it. See, that would be a preference reset in my book. So, but wait, at least yours ended up working?
Yeah.
Okay.
To click
No,
on the choose, click on the words again. Yeah, click there. There you go.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah, really weird.
well, that sucks. Anyway, then navigate to the Compact Flash Imitation. And so mine comes up. I've got 26 images in mine. Is that what you guys have in yours? You can see at the very top, it lists the number of images. Do you have 26? Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that we're all sort of on the same page. You can include subfolders here, and again, that would probably be a good idea. This would allow you to actually import, for instance, if we were doing the session where we built those 5 subfolder favorites, 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, you would want to include those subfolders, so you would, only thing you would have to select here would be the parent capture folder. Personally, I love exclude duplicates, so I would click on that. I don't want to duplicate anything twice. So then the next thing here is that where do you import to? So again, in this drop-down menu here, what you can say here is that this would be a case where you can say, I want you to leave the files where they are. I want them to stay in that folder that was called Compact Card Imitation. They can stay there forever. However, in most people's cases, they want to actually bring these files into the catalog itself so that it's always there. The trade-off in this is that if you have a catalog on your computer here and you continually are bringing those files into your catalog, that catalog just continues to grow, and eventually you'll run out of hard disk space. The advantage of leaving it where they are in the current location is that it'll allow you to, say, import from external hard drives. And then the only thing that you have to do is you need to plug your external hard drive in every time you want to truly look at these files. That's exactly the same behavior that happens in Lightroom. Are we good on this part? So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it in the current location. I'm not going to bring it inside. In terms of the collection, you can see in this drop-down menu here, you can actually have different ones here. I'm going to leave mine in my recent import only. It's a way to actually find images that are sitting over here. Backing up to, in this case, this is a poor choice, a poor way to back up, because the problem in this is it's going to back up the catalog, the database itself, but it's not going to back up your images. So this is sort of like a faulty premise. That's what's going on here. So with backup enabled here, I am not going to check that, and I'm not going to select a folder to do that, because this is not the place to do your backing up. Your backing up should be a separate process done in a separate program altogether. It should not be done in this. It also should not be done in Lightroom. That is not the place to back that stuff up, because it's not backing up your files. It's backing up the database of this catalog. The next thing down, it says naming is disabled when storing in the current location. And so what it's saying to me is we cannot rename your files because they're located on this part in your hard drive. So I want to rename this. I want to go through that process with you guys, and we've got just enough time to do it. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to go up here instead of current location. I am going to say go ahead and put this inside my catalog, and that now will enable me to rename these files. And again, in this renaming file, this should look exactly familiar to you from what we actually were doing here before. And you'll see down here in the bottom, it's job name underscore 3-digit counter. And this is actually what I want on this guy right here, because I'm going to start my new catalog. But this has picked up the job name from my old file, from something else that I was doing. So I am going to change the job name. And let's say I'm going to pretend that we were doing this shooting today. So it'll be 20191019 underscore CCC underscore C1 Pro demo. And I'm going to add a 2 to that because I don't want this to be confused with the ones that we have already done on this. Is this making sense to everyone? Again, look at your sample down here to make sure that it is going to start doing it as frame 001. If it wasn't, you would again come up here and click on this flyout menu, and you would actually reset your import counter to get to 001. If you already had files in here that you were adding to, so say for instance, you had 2 compact flash cards, you put in one and it uploaded like 80 images, and you want to go start number the next one in here, you would actually want your numbering to start at 81, not at 1 again here. So this part is actually set correct for me. In terms of the metadata, this is critical. You guys, how many of you are embedding your copyright in every image you take? Good. All of you should be. This is protection for you. To actually do a metadata template right here, if you click on the little 3 stars down here, take that back, click on the copyright notice here. It's a very limited copyright. I will show you guys in a later class how to do a much more extensive version of this. But if you want to change this or add your copyright, you hold down the option, so select the whole thing, hold down the option key and hit the letter G, that is the copyright symbol, put in my name, because these are my images. And then put in 2019. Adjustments, the next thing down. We are not going to add any adjustments, but if you had already worked on this program, say you had already worked on some of these files in Lightroom or someplace else, whatever, if you click on include existing adjustments, it will actually bring all of those in for you. If you had done work in Capture One, if this was a session, it would bring that stuff in as well. I'm going to finally click down on the file info down at the very bottom, and you'll see that there is no file info, and the reason there is none is we don't have a file selected. So if you actually click on one, it'll actually show you what this file info is right here. So at any rate, with all of this, you'll also notice because I clicked on that one single image, it's going to only offer to import one image. That's not what I want to do here. I want to actually do them all. So again, I'm going to come up here and do Command A to select all. That's all 26. However, the last things down here that you need to know about and that we need to talk about is this. Eject card. This is an important one, and I would enable this because the advantage of it is if you are working as a digital tech frantically importing images. So imagine, I actually have a really good friend of mine. She was a digital tech for Lollapalooza. They had 15 photographers shooting at Lollapalooza, and they had runners going from the photographers to the digital tech tent. And they would run in and they were just throwing cards at her as fast as she could actually put them into a computer. I mean, it's just like she's being inundated. She's managing all of this content for all of these photographers. Anyway, they're coming in like that. She slams the card into her reader, and then she has to stand there and watch it all import and have happen. She needs to be manic about that. She can't afford to do anything else. If you click on this eject card, what happens is the minute the import finishes, the card pops out, and she hears it pop out. She pulls that card out and throws the next one in. So it gives you time to do other things. You don't have to watch the whole time. So you definitely want that part on. How do you guys feel about erase images after copying? And why are you shaking your head no, Liz?
Because, I mean, what if something happens, it's like a backup copy? Unless you absolutely need a blank card.
No, you're absolutely right about that part. As long as there's images are on that card is your backup. So if things go wrong on your computer, you have not lost your images because they're on that card. So it's a backup. However, the other problem is that, and this is a biggie for you guys, you have to format the card in the camera you're going to use. If you format it in the card reader, there's a good chance it will never work in your camera. If you even use similar models of cameras, so let's say you have a 5D Mark II and a 5D Mark III, and you format in the 5D Mark II and use it in the 5D Mark III, you are asking for corruption. If you've got a trade and you're using Nikons and cameras and Canons, there's a good chance there's no interoperable any operation in between those two at all. You'll end up with corrupted cards. I know people that actually will write on their cards what it was formatted in, and they will never format it in any other camera ever, and you would never format it in a computer. If you care about your data, you don't fuck around with this stuff, and that's fucking around with it. Are we good on this part? Okay, and then finally, click on Import 26 Images. And you'll notice it brings them in, works actually pretty quick here. It's building previews the whole time it's doing it. It is renaming your files. It is putting the copyright mark in your file, and it is bringing them into your camera, into your catalog. It's time-stamping your catalog from when we actually did this import, and this is how you would actually bring these images in and work in a catalog environment. So again, there's a lot of people who will do multiple environments here. So they'll shoot everything to sessions, and then they will import all of their sessions into one giant catalog so that they can do a search in their giant catalog, and it says, oh, that file's in session, blah, 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 blah. And then you go find that session and you can get your files out and do whatever you want. Is this sort of making sense? Are there questions about any of this? One last thing to know, and then we are done, is if you click on this drop-down menu, you'll notice that you can go back to sessions really fast. You don't need to. You have interoperability between these. So if you come down again to the one that we were doing, that we were working on, our 1007, and you click on this, this brings us right back into the stuff that we had been working on before, and it's still there, and I can still work on it. However, I can also go straight back to my catalog as well, and it'll take me right back into the catalog. So there's complete interoperability between all of these guys. Are we good on this part? Is this all making sense? All right, guys, that's where we're going to land today. We've still got a lot to get through in Capture One, so I'm going to take a look to make sure that the assignment part, well, let's look at our assignments really quickly just so we all know. You guys can start shutting these computers down, though, because we got to get them back to the folks back there. So Capture One was our only thing for today. Your assignments for this week are to, it's saying on here to actually bring in two lighting examples. I'm going to go ahead and say stick with this right now. What this is designed to do is if we can get to lighting analysis tomorrow, next week. So I'm hoping what we can do is get through the rest of Capture One next week, and then what I want to do is we need to start getting into deciphering lighting. So what I'm asking you guys to do, it's this thing right here, is to bring in 2 tear sheets to analyze. So what I'm saying is look through magazines. You can do this. It doesn't have to be a physical tear sheet. It can be on Pinterest. It can be anywhere you get source from. But do not bring images in on your phone. I will not look at images on your phone. They're too small to begin with. But the other thing is that we need to have them big so that we can trade them around and start to talk about them. However, if you can do both, that would be great. So the printout part, I don't care how shitty it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be great. It just needs to be able to show the lighting part. But if you can also find an electronic version of that image, I want you to bring that as well. So we'll do both. We'll look at stuff in hand and on screen. So does this make sense, everybody? And that's really that. I want you guys to spend some time working in Capture One as well, so that some of the things that we've gone through today, again, go spend some time, build some subfolders for yourself, favorites. See if the whole naming convention thing works for you. Hook your camera up to this. See what that whole part is like. Does this sort of make sense to go with? All right, I'll see you guys next week.